Broad Street Review podcast is an extension of Broad Street Review, Philly's home for arts, culture, and conversation, an online arts and culture journal covering the greater Philadelphia area. I'm your host, Darnelle Radford.
Today on the podcast, Susan Chase drops in to talk about her upcoming production, Mother's Day, a theatrical homage to the women who made us. Here is my interview with Susan Chase for Mother's Day.
And welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnelle Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio with Susan Chase, and we're here to talk about the offering Mother's Day, a theatrical homage to the women who made us. And Susan and I go a long way back, almost like everyone in the community. It was a surprise to see Susan show up in all my spaces, and so I thought it'd be great, especially in the title of the play and the time frame. It just lines up, so we'd have a great chat. So, welcome, Susan Chase, to the virtual studio. Welcome.
Thank you, Darnelle. It's really fun that we rediscovered one another.
Absolutely. I can't exactly remember when we actually met. I just know it was early in the podcasting. And I do remember at the time, you were working on a piece called Susan's Undoing.
That's right.
And I thought, let's take a little trip down memory lane before we get to Mother's Day, and tell us about that and all the artistic work you've been doing up to this point.
Oh, boy. Well, Susan's Undoing, that was really an important piece for me. It was my way of processing and then telling the story of my cancer journey. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2002. I was a ridiculously young, healthy woman. I was a dancer. And I'd been a professional ballet dancer. Never, ever thought anything serious about my health. It really blindsided me. Like, you know, I have cancer? No, that can't be. And so something I learned, the big lesson I got out of Susan's Undoing is that I discovered that writing is my therapy. And it's not just therapy, it's just how I process. Like when I'm in the thick of it, it's just write it down. And everything just keeps expanding within that. Like suddenly I'm remembering things from early childhood. I don't know if I've maybe had a pre-birth memory emerge. It's just like things just emerge when I'm in that process.
In that space.
Yeah. And in no way did I think I was going to make a play out of that. It really was, I'm just sharing my thoughts with me.
Yeah.
But then at some point, it just became very clear that these all fit together in a very interesting way. And I became interested in making a play out of it. Now, here's a nice connection. I collaborated at the time with a friend of mine who is a composer. And his name it's a long name. It's Justin Solonica. And he and I collaborated on Susan's Undoing. And we are best of friends. He's just one of the dearest people in my life. And he came to see an early presentation of Mother's Day and was super encouraging. I mean, you know, I might not have taken the next step without the encouragement that he and others gave me. Well, it didn't seem like there would ever be any way that Justin would be involved in that play, but now he is involved. Because, well, I won't take too long with this unless, you know, if you want to hear more about it.
Oh, no, please tell us.
So I use a lot of music in my work. I began my career as a ballet dancer, and I kind of live with a musical soundtrack accompanying me all the time. All
Isn't that great?
it is. And
Yeah.
yeah. And so then as soon as I'm trying to transfer that into a play, it's like, okay, what's going to be the soundtrack at this point? Well, for Susan's Undoing, Justin was my collaborator, so I was actually using his original music, and then he played it. For Mother's Day, the whole play is really in a different time and place. It's primarily in the place of my childhood, and so I want to play the music of that childhood. And sometimes, actually a lot of the time, both my mother and father sang to me. And then those songs are even earlier. Those songs go back to the 1940s, 1950s. And of course, some of them go back even further than that because their parents sang to them. So there's just this rich history. And I wanted all this music. You will laugh when you hear this, but I really did not know that there are laws about what music you can use.
Yeah.
So that was a huge hurdle for me in Mother's Day. All the music I selected, I basically was unable to use. Except for two pieces, two of my favorites, actually. The individual artist just granted me permission.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and that happened right in the beginning. So I was like, oh, this will be easy. They're all such sweethearts. But they aren't. And it isn't even that the individual people aren't sweethearts. It's just a complicated web.
Yeah. The people protecting their intellectual property, like the people standing in there for them.
And I didn't even know which kind of rights I needed. So I'd go to one person and they'd be, oh, we don't do that kind of rights. You need to speak to this person. Then I'd reach them and they'd go, oh, no, we don't do those rights. You need to speak to the. And so when that chain went on too long, I would just be, okay, I'm done with that. And finally I decided I'm going to keep things really simple here. I will use music that is not copywritten, and I will ask my dear friend Justin to play it. And so he became my accompanist for Mother's Day as well.
Yeah, that's great. It is. It's interesting. Like we talk about it all the time. Like unions and all these regulations and so on. They're designed to protect us as artists, but they often stand in the way of what we think is like very simple to do. But I'm kind of glad it's all in place. It's just, it would be great if all that information was just easier to receive. But you went through that process, so now you can kind of guide someone if they were to ask you. You'd probably say, get an original collaborator.
It certainly is an easier path to take. The other thing is, if you can, you just hire someone to take care of that, because there are copyright lawyers and people who are experts, which I am not. So it quickly became apparent, if I'm going to try to pursue this will take all my time, and I won't have any time to work on the show.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you never know. You never know when you're crafting the idea how far this is going to go. This could be therapy, like you said. Writing is therapy. You could have just written this to get it out of your mind, and so that you had it, documented somewhere, and you can rest with it. You never know. 10 years later, somebody's like, "Why didn't you do something with this? You should do something with this." And then you got to bring all these pieces together. It's so amazing how art can develop over time, because you don't know what your idea comes out. It's a blueprint at first, and then the more people you get to see it and experience it and kind of give you feedback on it, it starts to evolve.
Well, just I'm just back from performing in New York City at the United Solo Festival, and I have to tell you, first of all, it's just an interesting experience. I was so terrified of performing in New York. Like I used to live in New York. That I've been there. I know the city. I'm comfortable there. But this idea of just going in as an outsider and performing for an audience of all New Yorkers, I just felt very, very intimidated. And this audience was the most welcoming audience I've ever had.
Wow.
I mean, they were in there with me, even to the point where I could tell they wanted to answer questions, rhetorical things that I say. You could see some of them were kind of like, pick me. I want to answer that. And then there were times that they did answer just through head nods. Like I asked a rhetorical question and every head in the audience nodded. And that was correct. The answer to that question was, in fact, yes. And everyone got that. Now, after the show, then I started talking to some audience members, and I just realized everyone I spoke to is a potential future collaborator because they're all people in the arts, composers, singers, musicians. I always need that in my shows. So it really is true. Like that's one of the driving forces to put yourself out there, even when it's scary, because you will meet people who will help you to grow in some way that you can't even imagine.
Yeah. I also think that patrons of United Solo Festival, like they want to support the work that they're experiencing. And so you are in good company. I always try to walk in with that mindset, like I want this to succeed. And so I'm going to take this in with that in mind. Like I'm going to walk away with what works in the show. And I want to talk about, uplift, and celebrate those moments. And I think a lot more people who embrace the arts as people who make art and also people who consume art. I think they are looking for how do I make this mine? And so yeah, and it's hard to tell, the butterflies you've had years of this, like you're seasoned in the best possible way, but it's still, every time you go on, it still feels the same way. It's like, I don't know what this audience is going to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a whole new city, where you have very few. I had very few personal contacts. Couple of friends that I grew up with showed up. That was delightful. I mean, friends who knew me, in elementary school, and now we're meeting again in New York. And I had one student. I teach theater at Penn State Abington, and I had one student with whom we just really became very close and very trusting of one another. And I invited him to one of my early presentations of Mother's Day because I just knew he would be open-minded and would give me good feedback. And he is from China. He was born in China. He did not move to the United States till he was 11. And now he's a college student. So that means he's all of 19. So he's really spent half his life in a completely different culture. And yet, at the end of and this wasn't even the full show. I hadn't even finished writing it. At the end of it, he went, "Oh, I have to bring my mother to see this. I want to." Well, guess who was in the audience in New York?
Wow. Oh, isn't that that's so heartwarming?
No, it was beautiful. And his mother and he were both moved by the show, although the mother said, Susan's mother is so different from me because in China, she was growing up in the Mao Zedong years, and she, told her son, we were starving. We were vegans, not by choice.
Wow.
We did not have access to meat. We never ate meat.
Mhm.
And, my mother grew up, I grew up in that post-war period. I'm a baby boomer. That's a very different life.
Yeah.
And this woman still embraced and felt the message of Mother's Day, although her past was so different from mine. So
Yeah.
there's something truly universal about motherhood. There really is.
Yeah. I mean, everyone on the planet has a connection to at least one mother. Whether it was a chosen mother or their birth mother.
Right.
Or, yeah. I wanted to ask you, when you were talking about the response of the audience, and how they wanted to respond to you in these moments, did it make you think, perhaps I can tweak this to allow for that audience response? Because a piece like this is going to be so relatable because everyone has mother. and it reminds me of a couple of pieces that are in development right now where that seems to be the kind of audience participation that people love. It's relatable, and it's like, oh yes, I have a very similar thing in story. Yeah. Have you thought about, or is that something you can? I'm always going to make time for a talk back.
Both. The play is still new. I've now performed it for an actual audience because the first performance was just for invited friends, very small group. I've now done it twice as a full performance. So this is still a young play, and it can develop in all kinds of ways. And I do a lot of asking questions, and I am aware that the audience wants to answer some of them. So I can definitely see that becoming something where it's like, well, go ahead. Yeah. What are your thoughts? And let people share that with me. I only worry about it though, because I don't have the greatest hearing. And in that situation, from the stage, it can be very hard to hear people. And, I don't want to have to, well, say it louder, say it,
Yeah.
So, but we'll see that's an interesting option that I've come very close to doing many times.
Perhaps it's a venue with a microphone for the audience. Just sit, like, anybody who wants to comment has to go over here and get in line or something. But it just presents an opportunity. You already have an established piece. You already know it resonates because you just performed it.
Yeah.
And so now the possibilities have always been endless, but that's great feedback.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah. So I was interested, like, what are your thoughts on being a self-producer in 2025? Like, how was it for you to, like, get into United Solo? And I know what you said in general about being in New York and performing, but, like, piecing all that together, what was that experience like? And
well, let me tell you, this is a tired woman. I make no pretense of being, oh, this is a piece of cake. I am so tired. and I still have a few big shows to do. So it remains to be seen how I cope with all that. When I did Susan's Undoing, I think I began working on that, like 20 years ago. Somewhere very early on, I had a meeting with a woman at an organization called the Cancer Support Community. I'm not sure I'm saying it perfectly, but something like that, who just loved the idea of my piece. And from then on, every time I performed, it was produced by them. So in truth, I didn't really know what went into it. It was just like, I had a lot of input. I was like, this is great theater. It'd be great to do it there. they paid the bills. They made it happen. And,
Great.
I certainly appreciated it, but this is very different, truly self-producing. Now, with respect to New York, I will tell you a funny story. So I'm a procrastinator. Are you a procrastinator? Is that part of your identity?
I do have procrastinatory tendencies, I would say. I like to say that I make enough I create enough space to procrastinate. It's part of my plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's right. And I procrastinate great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a great procrastinator. It's funny too, because as a instructor at Penn State, my students are always bemoaning, "Oh, I'm a procrastinator. Oh, woe is me. I'm sorry, I'm a procrastinator." And I always want to tell them, procrastination can work great. That's really who you are. Embrace it. You'll get the work done. You just get it done at the last minute. And, it's just funny that they all assume, young students assume this is a failure. And all my artistic friends, we're all procrastinators, but we get it done. We get it done.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I applied to the United Solo Festival on the last day of the late period to apply. The doors closed at like 5 p.m. that day. And I just thought, I really want to try to get this. And so I'm just typing away, and they need a certain amount of things, like you have to have a website. So I had to create a Facebook page to be able to put something there as my website. And there were a couple other things where it's just like, okay, I got to make that right now. And I'm not at all technically agile, shall we say. I finished filling in that application at like 4:50 for a 5 o'clock deadline. And, I pushed submit. And truly, they even say right up front, if anything is missing, you will not be considered.
Yeah.
It was very likely I'd missed something. And so I really never thought I'd ever hear from them again. And, and then I didn't hear from them again, except one day I get a phone call from Wendy Lane Bailey, the assistant director, going, "Did you ever get my email saying we've accepted you into the festival?" And I said, "No, I didn't. I never got that either." So everything was late for me.
Oh, no.
"Oh, can I still do it?" "Yes. That's why I called you." That she's so sharp that she knows a certain number of people are not going to get the email. She sent me had gone to spam.
No.
So, and I was in that process. I'm sure, you've experienced this in some part of your life. That time to accept that I'm going to be disappointed on this. I was not chosen. It does not reflect on me. In no way does it make me less of an artist, but I'm not being accepted by this. And then out of the blue, this call comes. So it's funny. It really was.
Well, I'm glad that it got to you. I've had a situation in the past where I applied for something and kind of forgot about it. I just assumed the window of time had passed, and then I got a call later. It was like, "Hey, we didn't see you. We wanted to know if you were still interested." I'm like, "What? You called me?" Yes. Yeah. That's great. And that's also a testament to the festival. It's been running so long, and it's so organized by now. And I think there's an offshoot that they do as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's kind of like off season of the festival. There's like a mini something that happens, but I'm glad it's there too.
Yeah. No, and it just a delightful experience. After dreading it, I just like this. It's like the best day of my life. Enjoying it, and they're very rigorous in preparation. You're getting almost daily emails. You must do this. You must submit this. Complete this form. Do this. very demanding. But the day of your show, when you walk in that theater, everyone is just like, "Hi, we're so glad you're here," and no one has the slightest trace of what's the word I want, of just like a stressful, or no one's rushing you, no one's rushing themselves.
No anxiety.
No, they were just like, everyone's just doing their thing very calmly, and they calmed me down. So
That's great. And I wouldn't be surprised they understand over time that, especially a solo piece, how vulnerable and intimate they all are, that they just have artists who need to be taken care of, and it's like, I think it's going to be easier for everyone if we're not stressed. They've got to perform. So we want to want them to know that they came to the right place. And they're part of a good thing.
No, they were absolutely sweethearts to the actual performer once you're there. It was very special.
That's great.
Yeah.
So now you've presented Mother's Day at United Solo. You got some good feedback from there. The festival's done, and you have this engagement set up at Theater Exile on May 4th. In between United Solo and now, have you given any thought to any changes to this piece?
A couple things. So all of that effort to get rid of any piece of music that was copywritten. I mean, that was painful, just cutting songs I love, songs that were sung to me as a child, and just going, can't be in the show. We're definitely considering putting them back in, but I don't think we actually will, because, that's something I've learned about creating theater, creating art. Almost all the things that you change, or those serendipitous changes, they're always good. Something that you changed because you got injured. Yeah. You realize, I can't do this, so I'm going to have to do this instead. This is awful, awful. This wonderful dance I was going to do, now I can't do it. You make some change, and it inevitably improves the show somehow. So we felt very solid about that show.
Also, you've already laid the foundation by having that music in there at one point. And so even though it's not presented, it's still with you.
That's an interesting comment, really.
Yeah.
Because some of them I actually still hear, even though they're not played. I mean, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Any thought to adding those songs to a pre-show mix? Where they're not actually in the show, but at least the audience gets a chance to hear them.
Yeah. But I mean, I think I would still have to get the rights even for that.
I mean,
I'm still waiting to hear from some of them. I get the rights, I will put them back in. I just don't.
ASCAP, help us out.
Yeah. I do want to tell you, okay, I'm glad. It's funny, like, when you said, have you made any changes? I'm like, not that I can think of. The one thing we will be doing in Philadelphia that I've wanted to do for each show, but always just been too overwhelmed, just getting the show ready. I have always said, and the play, I think, shows this, it's a play about mothers. I happen to be talking about my mother. That's the mother I know, but everyone will recognize themselves or their mother in it. And before the show, I'm going to do a series of photographs of mothers and daughters, or not just daughters, mothers and their children. And in the pre-show, it will be a young child with the mother. And at the end of the show, it will be a grown child with the mother, so that you see them at two really different places in the arc of their relationship. And I think I'm going to get to do that because I've already got the photos coming in. We're really going to do that. But that has been part of my vision from the get-go, just to, because that's always an interesting thing. The audience sits there.
Yeah.
What do you want them looking at, thinking about? I want to already get them thinking about their mothers, other mothers, looking, oh, I know who that is. Oh my gosh, there's her mother. Really getting them engaged in that. And I hope people will, after the show say, I want you to have me and my mother in there. And I'll be like, yeah, please.
You know what I think would be great, because you're in Philadelphia and Philadelphia is the birthplace of Mother's Day, that you should go to the plaque at City Hall and take a photo.
I did not know that.
Yeah, 1908. By founded by Anna Jarvis. Anna Jarvis.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I walk past it all the time and I never think about it. It's on Market Street. Okay. As if you're going west, into the city, mm-hmm. right as you hit City Hall, it's right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I really didn't know that. Wow.
See, we learn things all the time.
No, I love it. So within the play, there's a little sequence where I talk about my idols when I was growing up. And one of my idols is Julia Ward Howe. And I thought she is somehow connected to the creation of Mother's Day. She launched an international peace movement and envisioned Mother's Day as a day to celebrate peace. And I think this was all after the Civil War, when so many children died, and mothers wanted to do something to say, children need to stop dying in wars. So I'm going to have to look that up. In the best of ways. I love doing that. I want to learn more about this.
Yes. A quick search to Wikipedia says Julia Ward Howe was an American author and poet known for writing the Battle Hymn of the Republic as new lyrics to an existing song in the original 1870 pacifist Mother's Day Proclamation.
Huh.
She was also an advocate for abolitionism and a social activist, particularly for women's suffrage.
Yeah, she was involved in the creation of Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't know the Philadelphia connection. That's nice.
Yeah, it's so interesting too. Like, I mean, of course, you just assume Philly is the first for many things. And so I think that's why, like, it's not too much of a stretch to be like, did Philly do that first? I think Ann Jarvis was more involved with the first observance of it. Yeah. But they're interesting. Listeners, look up Anna Jarvis and Julia Ward Howe to add supplemental reading when you come see the show Mother's Day.
Well, now it seems I absolutely must do a talk back.
Yeah.
After the Philly performance.
I feel like intimate pieces warrant it more. I mean, like, I think every piece is worthy of a conversation. I like to think that the conversation, the presentation of the piece is just part of the conversation. And when you walk home after the show, you're going to be thinking about it. When you talk to somebody about what you just saw, that conversation is continuing to evolve and so on. So yeah, I think it's great. People like to engage with the artist, especially if you're the performer and the originator, the writer. Yeah.
Well, that actually has occurred after every performance, but it was unofficial.
Yeah.
But now I really want it, so I hope it happens.
It'll happen. Cool.
Yeah, that's very much what theater is about. That I like to make theater that makes you think and that makes you or allows you to see things in a different way. And of course, we all have mothers. I mean, and we've all been, buying her flowers for Mother's Day for many, many years. But I put some deep, deep thought into this, and I hope I was determined to cause thinking on what it is to be a mother, and I hope I've done that. I I don't think we've mentioned this, but I started writing this play when my mother died, and she died of COVID.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was horrible, just horrible. And it was right in the beginning, in that very first wave, that really decimated nursing homes. Um, now, the one, well, this was also when we were all in lockdown.
Yeah.
So there was nothing to do. So I just was writing. I mean, that's all I did. I did reading, because I find reading very consoling as well. And just wrote from sun up to sundown. And again, it was, I just needed to write. It was therapeutic, but it wasn't even consciously therapeutic. It was just, I'm thinking about my mother and we'll be writing about her. And so much opened up to me, memories I didn't know I had, just accessed, just awakened, because once you start thinking, memory is this great gift. I love memory. I love it. But it is so rich, and you only get the full richness of it if you practice it.
Yeah.
And if you develop it as a discipline. So the more you do of it, the better you get at it. And, in that whole period of just being quiet and thinking about my mother, all kinds of memories came back to me. A good number of them are in the play. The editing process was challenging, because they were all so precious to me, these memories. But it's just like, okay, that's got to go. That one's a little out there. You have to shape your piece.
Yeah. I can imagine it would be hard to kill those darlings when you just brought them back to the surface.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I do always tell myself, well, that will be in another play. So, I still like to revisit them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they won't be in another play.
It's also good to hold them, because when you do have these talkbacks, you can bring up those elements.
Yep.
Things that didn't make it into the show, but are also dear to your heart. I'm so excited for you for this piece. I feel like it's like just the response that you receive from United Solo, and when people can relate to your journey, that's the power of theater, and it's beautiful. And when it resonates, you're only grateful to be in the room when it all happens. And so we're looking forward to this piece, Mother's Day, an homage, a theatrical homage to the women who made us.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate here in Philadelphia to be able to experience this on May 4th at Theater Exile, my old stopping grounds. At Theater Exile. Listeners, you can get your tickets at theaterexile.org and find out more about the show. Susan, I'm so glad that we were able to reconnect once I realized you were booking our space.
Yeah, no, I'm so delighted. That's that serendipity.
Yeah.
Whenever, I'm an introvert. I don't go out to bars to meet people. I meet people through my work. That's just how it works for me. And it's rich. It's rich relationships.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled that we reconnected.
And it's also crazy because so much has happened since COVID, and COVID just slowed things down, and it felt like every minute was a year. It just felt like so much time. All of us standing still and like being restricted in our ability to be around the people that we care about, and then losing people. And then trying to make sense of things, like wanting to go back to before COVID, but realizing that that's not realistic, and then trying to make peace with moving forward and so on. And like, when is the right time? And also being an artist, like, should I create in this or wait? you know?
Yeah.
Those conversations, I remember talking to people about, like, I'm exhausted right now, and so not feeling like flexing the artistic muscle at the moment, but also being very aware of it, like all of this swirling around in your head. And I can imagine like the memories of your mother when you sat down and started writing this, like it's everything. I feel like this is why I love podcasting and recording, because like I could not write fast enough. the things I want to process, and so I hit record and go. It's very helpful. Is there anything else you wanna leave us with before we part ways today? I will tell you that when I see you in the space, I'm going to give you a big hug. But any parting words for our listeners?
I do have one parting wish and a request for people. I think that this play is best seen by mothers and their children. And, as someone who's now lost my mother, I just hope that if anyone is lucky enough to still have a mother, I urge you to bring her to this play. I truly believe it will make you closer. It will generate meaningful discussions. And if you don't have a mother, as I don't, and many of us don't now, it will really help you to revisit the memories that will give you solace and comfort. So it's very, as much as it deals with, a death, and a death of my mom, it's in a real spirit of celebration of her life and my incredible gratitude that I got to have her as a mother.
Yeah. And it's very fitting. It's a theatrical homage. It is a celebration. So yeah, let's celebrate mothers with Mother's Day, a theatrical homage to the women who made us at Theater Exile. And if you can't bring your mother, bring something that reminds you of your mother.
Yeah.
That'll be great to share. Susan, it's been a pleasure. It's really been great to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing the piece when we're ready to be there and engaged.
Well, it's my pleasure, Darnelle, and I look forward to seeing you as well. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you to our guest, Susan Chase, for joining us on today's podcast. The Broad Street Review podcast is an Emory production. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, visit us online at em3ry.com. Get involved with Broad Street Review. Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com to find out how. While you're there, help keep us running and click donate at the top. There you can also find our social media links. Thank you for your part in keeping the conversation going.